sponsor, speaker for the day. This is Brant with BRAA. He's going to talk about BRAA for a few minutes. Everyone give it up to Hans.
Can y'all hear me? Wow. I just want to say thank you. I know y'all didn't come here to hear from me, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. But I want you to know that the BRAA stands for the Blue Raider Athletic Association, and we're the official fundraising arm of MTSU Athletics. I oversee the Blue Raider Athletic Association, and one of the things that I learned a year ago when I first started is that our membership is not very diverse. And so one of the things that we are doing, that one of the reasons why we chose to partner with MYP and be here at events like this is because we are building out a strategy to increase and incentivize and engage people just like you. We need to get younger in our membership. There are a lot of people who live around here who are in their 20s and 30s and graduated from MTSU. But there's a lot of people, including myself, who didn't graduate from MTSU. And so one of the things you'll be hearing from us here in the next few weeks is a rebrand of our BRAA Young Alumni Program to a Recent Graduates Program. And so if you graduate from the University of Illinois or University of Tennessee or Alabama or Wisconsin or wherever you may be from, we want you part of the BRAA family, and we want to be able to offer you the same types of benefits and perks as we do our MTSU alums. So there's a lot going on at MTSU in the athletic department. If you drive by campus, you'll see construction. Praise God, after a long time of talking about renovating and talking about building new buildings, we're finally got shovels in the dirt, and we're building about $100 million worth of new renovated facilities, including the Murphy Center and the state-of-the-art tennis facility and new state-of-the-art performance center. And I would love to talk to you guys about that at a later date. If you have any questions, I'm here. And then I also have some giveaways, so catch me at the end before you leave. Other than that, again, my name is Hans, and thank you guys so much for having us.
All right. Thank you, Hans, for that. I'm going to use the mic. That's okay. Everybody, our keynote speaker for today is Jessica Prater. She was introduced to me by Lynette and Jamie, and I'm very happy to announce her today. She is the principal consultant of J. Prater Consulting. She's been doing it for 15 years, and it's in organizational development training in HR. As a fifth-generation business owner and native Tennessean, she brings a unique understanding of the entrepreneurial spirit along with her 7 years of corporate experience. Jessica carries the professional certification of PHR and is pursuing her ACC coaching designation. You should have told me that up there next to your name. Made you look cool. She holds a Master of Arts degree from MTSU, where she returned in 2018 as an adjunct in the psychology department. In addition to her consulting business, Jessica and her husband Brant run FixIt Tennessee, LLC, a residential remodeling business. They also help operate a family cattle farm where they focus on sustainable grass-fed beef. They live in Bell Buckle, a mile away from my in-laws, and have one son, Levi. Everyone, welcome, Jessica.
Good afternoon, NYP. I am so excited to be here with you guys. I was a long-time NYP member. I spent a lot of my 20s in NYP, some of my 30s, and some of us are getting ready to graduate the age of NYP. So it's been a few years since I've been at a meeting, and I really appreciate Lynette and Jamie bringing my name up and inviting me to speak to you guys today. They asked me to speak about goal setting, and funnily enough, I actually have a full workshop on goal setting. And what I've done today is kind of distilled down some pieces from that workshop. I really want to talk to you guys about some high levels about goal setting. So I have gotten my ACC since I sent that bio, so excited about that. That was an 18-month process to get my coaching certification. But excited to be here with you guys today. And I'll share with you guys as well, when I think about goal setting, I don't normally write as much in my bio, but sometimes when I talk to people about the things that we do, my husband lost his job in 2020, and we had a decision to make. Does he go back in the corporate world, or do we want to do something different? And we opened his residential construction business. And we also run a farm. We have been a big part of the family farm since we got married in 2011. And sometimes people look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, Jessica, you'll have 3 businesses. You do adjunct professor work at MTSU. How in the world do you balance all of it? Number one, my tax guy hates me. He sees me rolling in every year and he's like, oh, the Praters are here. But other than that, we really focus on some very strategic goals as a family. And so I want to share with you guys 2 things. So I am a practitioner in organizational psychology. So I want to share some research and data, but I also want to share some anecdotal personal experience about goal setting. So we're going to talk about the psychology of goal setting. Don't worry, we're not going to turn this into Psych 101, but I am going to share some interesting things with you guys about the data behind goal setting. We're going to talk about the dark side. Yes, I'm a Star Wars fan. Yes, we're going to talk about the dark side. I'm also going to talk about successful goal setting. What does it take to set good goals? And finally, we're going to talk about probably the most important part of goal setting that people forget is how to adjust your goals if they're not working or you're not succeeding at them. So organizational psychology, talk about IO psych. It's basically your brain at work. I went through the master's program at MTSU for IO psych, which basically means I can either be a super nerd or I can turn it off. And so today you're going to get a little bit of both. And really talking about this idea of what does your brain do when you approach goals? And then how do you use some of that knowledge to be really strategic in your goal setting to lead you to success? I have a few questions for you guys, but before that, I have a really cool quote, and Kara Kemp really got me on this quote. She shared this with me a few years ago, and it's always stuck. Your soul knows the geography of your destiny. It alone has the map of your future. Therefore, you can trust this indirect, oblique side of yourself. And if you do it, it will take you where you need to go, but more importantly, it will teach you the kindness of rhythm through the journey. This idea of your goals need to be specific for you. There are a lot of people out there, especially on social media, that want to tell you what your goals should be. And I will tell you that the most important part of setting goals is recognizing that your goals need to be personal to what you really want to achieve. I'll also share this. Where there is no vision, the people perish. You've got to have a vision and direction you are going in. So I have to ask you guys a question. How many of you guys regularly set goals? Raise your hand for me. Okay? How many of you guys kind of wing it? Sometimes. I'm just going to be honest with y'all, okay? How many of you guys work for a business or organization beyond just yourself? Do you work? How many of you guys are in a corporation? Are you responsible to reporting to someone else for goals? Okay. How many of you guys are self-employed? All right, we've got a good mix of folks in here. Here's what I will tell you guys. Goal setting is going to look different for everybody, depending on the situation that you're in. And so what I'm going to share with you guys, both from my own corporate experience to now my self-employed experience. And I want to share with you guys some tips and tools that are going to work across these situations. Now I'll tell you guys as well, what's really weird is this year is the year that now I've been self-employed longer than I was in corporate, which is super weird for me. Even though I come from a business family, my dad was a business owner for over 30 years. I got to be around my grandfather's business growing up. I got to be around my great-grandfather, but he had closed his business by the time that I was born. But I was around that entrepreneurial spirit my whole life. I never thought that I would open my own business. But things just worked out that was just how it rolled out. But I'll tell you guys, I've learned some great things in corporate about goal setting that I still use today as someone who's self-employed. So what is your goal setting style? First of all, we have the traditional goal setting path. How many of you guys that work in corporate have things like Workday or Success Factors where goals are automatically rolled down to you? Okay, some of you guys are going, yep, seen that before. Isn't that wonderful when you log into your account one day and all of a sudden your goals have been automatically populated for you? I found that both empowering, hey, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but also it kind of turned me off goals should be. I don't have any input in this. So this is something that's really important to talk about, is if you're in a corporate setting, you're going to have some goals that are naturally cascaded to you, okay? But even if you are self-employed or you map your own goals, I would say there are those of us that are a little bit more driven with structure. You're a little bit more driven with some kind of repeating structure that you're going to work with. I have to tell you guys, Joel, I said that I was going to call your name out. The 3-month year has completely changed how I view goals. Joel got me started on the book, what, 4 years ago? You shared that book with that about 4 years ago? Y'all, it's so good, right? Because it is a traditional goal setting in a way that really looks at the volatility of workplaces today, okay? If you're setting annual goals and you're setting them and forgetting them and not going back to them, it's very likely within 3 to 4 months, they're going to be outdated. They're not going to be able to follow along with what's happening with your business. And so it's very important to recognize that what we've traditionally thought about with goal setting, it continues to evolve, especially with how volatile business is today. But there are some of us that really need that traditional goal setting path. There are others that like to take a more collaborative approach. I don't know about you guys, but I get energy from other people. So I come from a psychology background. I've gotten all of the tests and assessments, and if you guys know me personally, you know I am a high extrovert, right? I get my energy from people. I will leave this room today, and I will get in my car, and I will need to listen to some loud music, and I will be just amped up, and I will pick my son up from school in a couple hours, and he's also an extrovert, bless my husband's heart. But he and I will get in the car and we'll just do this, because he's been at school all day and I've been with you guys, okay? I'm an extrovert. So there's a piece of goal setting as well that can be collaborative, that might gain energy from other people. You need to know if that drives you working with other people. And I'll also tell you, there are some of us that are the wing it type. Now, I'll go ahead and confess to you guys, I'm very structural oriented. I like to have a goal setting approach. All of my goals and habits are in this right here. And I have check boxes, and I have to work through them every day. But I also am somebody that likes to wing it a little bit, okay? I really like to have a little spontaneity in what I do. And so understanding your own goal-setting style will help you understand how you tick, okay? I'm not going to say that any of these three are necessarily better than another. There are some business leaders that are really good at just winging it. You know how I know? I've been in the offices with them and talked to them about it. And they're very successful. And I'm like, tell me about your goal-setting process. Well, we just, go with our gut. I'm like, okay. But I have to say, that person that I'm thinking of specifically knew that was their style. They tapped into it. They honed in with it. And they made it work for them. And so there's lots of different ways to set goals. I'll share with you guys the psychological view of goal setting. When we talk about goals, we think about goals, we really think about this idea of what it does for your brain. So why in the world do we set goals? We have seen consistently, year over year, with many studies and many things that reinforce it, that goal setting builds your self-confidence. If you are able to write down a goal and achieve that goal, you build your self-confidence. It also builds your motivation. We consistently see when you're working over a long period of time, if your motivation goes up, if you have a targeted focus to that energy. And finally, autonomy. And autonomy is something that we really talk a lot about in the workplace. How much control do you have over a situation? How much mastery do you have? How comfortable are you really engaging in action? And so those three things consistently, self-confidence, motivation, and autonomy, those are things that goal setting drives. And I have to tell you guys, if you're a manager of others, how many of you guys manage others? Okay, a few of you guys. All right. You want happy teammates? You want happy folks that work with you? Self-confidence, motivation, and autonomy are great keys to that. And so helping others learn how to set goals and collaborating on them and working together as a team, that can actually not only build your productivity, but it also can build your team cohesion. So I put this up there, and I know you guys are like, I can't see this. I know. I did that on purpose. this is the model that we use for goal setting in psychology. It's by Locke and Latham. And why I put that up there is, I want you guys to see, there's a lot that goes into goal setting, right? There's a lot of pieces. There's things like, am I happy with the goal, right? Am I bought in? Do I choose the goal? All of those things are things that come into goal setting. So there's no way that somebody in 25 minutes can come in and talk about each one of these pieces. But I want you guys to know and understand that goal setting is complex. So the gurus were Locke and Latham. They did studies back in the 1970s. We continue to have research that comes out that continues to reinforce the original theories that they wrote. Self-perception theory. I know you guys have probably heard about this idea. You're more likely to get a habit that sticks or achieve a goal if that is part of your identity. And so that's a big part of talking about goal setting, is your view of self, who you are, is really dependent on the goals that you set and the goals that you achieve. But here's what I want to share with you guys. Your view of yourself is dependent on that goal attainment, but doesn't life change? What I've seen increasingly over the past 10 years especially, and I've been in this world for 15 years now, so I remember when it was just Facebook. It was just those of us that were in college on Facebook. But I think social media has given us a lie that everybody should have the same aspirational goals. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is not only this idea of good goal setting, but also how to set goals that work for you. So be aware of the dark side of goals. We've had a lot of research come out in the last 10 years that I think is particularly interesting. And if any of you guys follow a guy called Emmanuel Ancho, he recently wrote a book about not goal setting. And guys, I read it because I was like, whoa, this is against everything I've been taught. And he had some good things to say in there. Because there's a dark side about goal setting, and that is if you're not making goals that are personalized to you, if you're not making goals that are achievable, then you are going to struggle, number one, to achieve them, but number two, with your own self-identity. If you are consistently missing goals that you've put for yourself, what's that going to do for you? And so we've actually seen a lot of research come out on the dark side of goals because we want to make sure that they're attainable. We want to make sure that there's something that motivates you. And we want to make sure that you are not creating goals that are someone else's ideal, but that they're your ideal. So don't get stuck on the performance merry-go-round. We have something called performance spirals, and we've studied these for several years. But basically it says, if you get a win, what's going to happen to your engagement and energy? You're going to get excited. You're going to do better. And if you do better, you're going to more likely get another win. You're going to keep practicing, keep getting excited. Where I see problems with goal setting is that if we have too many stretch goals, listen, don't take it wrong, stretch goals are great. We need to have hard goals. But if we continually set goals for ourselves that are not realistic and don't take into account our environment, then we're going to have a loss. And with that, we're probably going to get discouraged. And what happens from there? We're probably going to have another loss. So being very, very intentional about not getting stuck on that performance merry-go-round. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about is this idea of performance acceleration. How can we use goals to make sure that we're moving forward? By the way, I'm checking the clock because I talk way too much if I'm not careful. So making sure that we move forward, we have performance acceleration. So I shared earlier that I've been through a process of becoming a certified coach. You know, when I first learned about coaching, I was doing a lot of stand-up training. And training is great. I love being in classrooms. I love teaching workshops. I get the opportunity to do that really across the United States. But I really was engaged with when people get done with training, what's next? It's great to sit in a classroom for 8 hours and learn about a concept. But most of us leave that workshop and are hit with a wall of reality. So for me, that's why I really got into coaching. So for me, I've spent the last really 2 years working on my coaching skills, getting better at it. I'd always done some of it, but never in a formal way. And I've had the opportunity to work one-on-one with a lot of really cool people. And I've started to see some themes about goal setting. Because most of the time I'm working with folks that are mid-career, maybe first-level managers. And a lot of times we're talking about performance and goal attainment. Now, as I've been working with folks, I've really seen 3 themes as we're talking about success and goal setting. And that is context, accountability, and review. 30s have looked a little bit different. Okay, I had my son in my early 30s. And I have really had a different track on my career. I worked part-time for several years. Okay, I have had a different environment that I work from. You know, another thing in context is the things around you. The pandemic changed my industry significantly. Just a flashback to 2020. I was on a plane probably twice a month. I was in classrooms with people, and in March of 2020, in the span of a week, I lost 5 figures of business because of people canceling jobs that I had booked. And for the next 6 months, I kind of went, okay, what do I want to do with my life now? Because the pandemic, nobody's having in-person classes. So context also has to do with what's going on outside of your control. How many of you guys have experienced changes in your industry because of the economy in the past 6 months? I have. Okay. Context is important to consider as well as we're looking at goal setting. It is not an excuse. It's not a reason to throw up our hands and say, oh, well, I just can't do anything with this economy. But it's important to consider context as we set goals. The next thing as well is to consider accountability. I have to tell you guys, accountability looks very different if you work for yourself versus working for someone else. But we all need it. I felt it very differently when I was in a corporate setting. I had a manager, I had performance reviews. My accountability was different. When you are self-employed, you have to build some of that in. Whether you build that in with other peers, whether you build that in with a coaching relationship, whether you build that in with your networking, maybe even some folks here with NYP, having that accountability to make sure you set and achieve those goals. I have to tell you guys, I have a lot of personal, if the house was burning down, my husband would have to go get this book, okay? Because all of my goals are in here, okay? All of the things that I'm working on a daily basis are right here. I have an accountability relationship with a coach that I work with out of Chicago, and she's wonderful. But this is my day-to-day accountability. It's going to look different for each of us. You know, you may use something like Asana or Notion to track and chart your goals. And I would tell you, having that accountability is very important. And I'll tell you guys this as well. As you think about your goal setting and accountability, it's good to consider what is inside and out of your control when you think about your goals. There are goals that I can really control on a day-to-day basis. You know, I can control how many outbound calls I make. I can control how many proposals that I send. I can control how many events that I attend. Can't always control the end number on my income. I can't always control how many customers are going to say yes. And so for me, having a good mix of both of those are very important. Finally, review. This is the piece that so many times we miss. How many times have you missed a goal or a target and you think, well, that was a mess, I don't want to think about it anymore? I've done it. I've been guilty. This review piece is really important. You have some options here. You know, you can think about, do I want to do something differently? Do I want to change the goal? All of those things are options that you have as you review. So I want to be very vulnerable with you guys here. They asked me to speak on goal setting, I don't know, Trey, Jamie, like February? Yeah. Just share with you guys, March was abysmal for me. Abysmal. Terrible. I missed almost every single goal. And I was thinking, great, gotta go to NYP and talk about goal setting next month, right? But I had to do that review. There were a couple things, it was a perfect storm. I had a couple situations that came up that were beyond my control. I had a child that was sick and could not go to school for almost 2 weeks. That is just a lot, right? And spring break on top of that, March was hard. So what do I do as a result of that? Well, I set a date with myself every month. I spend time and I review my goals and I think about what have I done, what have I not done this month, okay? Set a date with myself at the end of March. Had to look and say, wow, I got 1 goal out of 7 that I was shooting for. That's pretty rough, man. But I actually went back and said, okay, what led to this? Yeah, there were some things that were out of my control. I certainly cannot help my little germ ball that brings home everything from kindergarten, okay? But what kind of change? I made some changes as a result. I tweaked my goals as a result. And so really thinking about that review process, it can be painful, it can be challenging, but putting the mirror up in front of yourself and saying, Do I need to change the goal, or do I need to change my habits and actions to get there? It's a very important part of goal setting. So here's what I want to ask you guys. We've got about 5 more minutes. Is that right? Well, we're supposed to wrap up?
Q&A, if you want to finish, you decide.
Oh man, I'm supposed to be done. Let's see. This is what happens. I talk too much. Here's some questions for consideration. And I'll let you guys have questions for me. I would invite you guys to ask yourself, how are you approaching your pivots? How are you approaching your failures? I want you to ask yourself regularly, what's going well and how can you do better? I'll share with you guys this as well before I open up for questions. I do have a free download. This is available for you guys. It's going to ask for your name and email address just so that you can access it. But this is a resource that I originally created in 2018 based on a client request. And it has served the test of time. I've made some tweaks to it. We did some tweaking to it after the pandemic. But what I have found is goal setting is not just about setting that original goal. It's about learning how to pivot. So this is a download that I have that you're welcome to access to really think about how you pivot well. So I'll go ahead. I think we have how many minutes left? 3?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Do you guys have any questions for me? Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for coming and sharing. That was really insightful. You talked about reviewing, pivoting. I may have missed it, but what I don't think I heard was like, where do we start? What's like the first step we wanted to do here and start setting goals, or start setting better goals, or having a better process for our goal setting? Where do you recommend that we start?
I love that question. So starting with goal setting is making the time to think about what you want to achieve. Breaking down, and I think too many times we kind of skip that step, right? We don't spend time thinking through what types of goals we want to achieve. So thinking about goal setting, giving us time to do it. You know, I know there's a lot out there as far as SMART goals, make them measurable, make them attainable. But I would say the biggest piece that I find is that people are missing taking the time to sit with what do I want and potentially planning it out. Makes sense? Okay, go ahead.
So you spoke about how sometimes your goals can be outdated by the time you get to a year.
Yes.
Then you spoke about how you have goals for March itself. So is there like a time frame that you try to set, like stretch goals, long-term goals that you're like, if I go past this date, it may not work for me as well, unless I just put it in like 3 months.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll share with you my own process, which has been an evolution for me. And again, I can't recommend that book highly enough that Joel got me on the 3-month year. It's fantastic. But it would depend on your industry. For me, I have quarterly goals that I'm working towards. I kind of sit down and have a longer period of time. I actually try to get away overnight once a quarter to kind of spend time working on my quarterly plan. But every month I sit down and have kind of my monthly plan that I'm working towards that quarterly plan. For me, my business and industry are really volatile, but it also is a business and industry that I schedule out a long ways. I already have stuff on my calendar for 6 months for now. But the flip side is I may have a client call me tomorrow and they need something in 2 weeks. So for me, I have found that quarterly with monthly goals that roll under it has worked best. Again, depending on your industry, and this is a great place as well, working with peers, asking peers, what works best for you? It is a constant evolution of figuring out what works best now, and then evolving when it doesn't work. Go ahead.
How often do you find your goals, your personal goals and your business goals kind of working hard?
That's a great question. I honestly, this is my perspective, I don't think I can separate them. I've got both, right? I always try to be working on personal goals in some ways, but also professional. I think they all go together, and we also have to think about balance. You know, there are too many times when we work in the seasons, we think we can do all the things, especially in January. Oh my goodness, how many of you guys, January, I feel the need to eat healthy, exercise, read 10 books, all the things, and by February, I'm exhausted. So recognizing that you have personal bandwidth, all of our bandwidths are going to be different depending on the season that you're in, but recognizing that you've got to integrate both of them because you only have 24 hours in a day. You only have so much energy management, and personal and professional You can only do what's on a Post-it note, right? And I have about a Post-it note size that I draw at every day. And that's it. I understand that that's my bandwidth. And you talk about the mundane things. I regularly look at how I'm spending my time, especially in 3 businesses and also with an adjunct role. I have to honestly say what is moving the needle forward to me and what isn't. And what do I need to outsource to somebody else, and what do I need to just let go of? And that is a regular practice of just reviewing and looking at that. And I think for me, understanding too what is urgent. I'll share this as well. I see a lot of times, and I talk with a lot of people, that everything is urgent all the time. And that is not realistic. That is a recipe for burnout. You have to be really intentional on what is actually urgent, and then what might be able to wait. So things that might be mundane, yeah, they need to wait if a client calls me with a hair on fire situation. But understanding and being able to prioritize, I find is a really key skill as you're building your career. And again, that is something that just takes flex, it takes practice, it takes learning from failures of times, and I've been guilty of things that really were more urgent, and I was like, oh, but I've got to write my weekly newsletter. So recognizing what is actually moving the needle is really important. I'll share this with you guys as well before I wrap up. I do have a sign-up sheet. I do have a mailing list if anybody is interested. I only send 2 emails out a month. One of them is always content related. I just want to share information with you. The other one is, something, maybe a free download, information to share with you. But if you are interested in getting in that newsletter, I see several of you guys that are on that newsletter regularly. I've got this. I'm going to put it in the back of the table. Please feel free to sign up if you would like to get on that newsletter.